Okay. So my workshop will contain the following three aspects. First, I will give a short introduction about the web scraping technique, and then I will talk about how to use web scraping techniques using R, and I will talk about three situations. The first one is how to import files downloaded from website directly into R. The second one is about like how to web scraping the static data using R, and the last one will be how to scrape the dynamic data using R. And at last, I will give a short summary about this workshop. Okay. So web scraping technique is used for capturing data from the websites. So the motivation of web scraping mainly contains two parts. The first part is like when we have a website, and in that website we have some data that we want to extract. Then we need some technique to help us to extract that kind of data. And then web scraping also provide us a reproducible way of capturing data from the websites. I will talk about these two kinds of parts in later by an example. And also, since our workshop today is mainly about the web scraping using R, and to do the web scraping using R, it requires us to first have some experience with R, and second, it requires us to have a laptop with R and RStudio installed. So next, I will use an example to show why web scraping techniques is important in the real world. So look at this website. This website is the College Basketball School Index. It records the basketball index for different schools, and we can see here there are different schools and different records for each school. So in this website, if we want to scrape all those data from this website, we can consider two ways. The first one is like we can copy and paste each cells by ourselves. So copy each data in each cell by ourselves. But obviously, this way is really time consuming. So here, in this case, web scraping technique can help us to capture this data efficiently. And another advantage of web scraping is that once this data in the website changes, we can use a few lines of code to reproduce all this result instead of we copying and paste in another time. So this is how web scraping can help us in the real data example. So for the web scraping, when we have different kinds of data, we need different kinds of web scraping techniques. So in this workshop, I will mainly discuss the following kinds of situation. The first one, when we have data that have been organized really well into files. So in this case, we can directly download the data from the website and import the data into R. So this case is relatively simple compared to other situations. So another case is that when the data are contained in the HTML pages, so the data are not organized into files. So in this case, there are two kinds of data in this case. One is static data, the other one is dynamic data. And for different kinds of data, we require different kinds of web scraping techniques to extract them. So next, I will talk about the first situation. So import data files from website directly. So if we have data file that in the website, and it is stored in the CSV file format files. So in this case, we can import this data by the use of read.csv functions, by this kind of function. So this kind of function can help us to directly import the data from a website. So for example, if we want to extract the most recent Australia Open Tennis Championships match from this website. So from this website. So we can see the most recent championship match, the record for the most recent championship match is for 2020. So we want, and this data is stored in a CSV file. So if we want to directly import this data file into R, so the first thing we can do this with the read.csv function. And the first thing is to obtain the link address of this data file. So we can obtain this address by right-click and by choosing the copy link address. So by doing this, so here is the URL for that CSV file. So you can see we can directly download it from here. So here is the link for that CSV file. So by using this link, we use read.csv function to this link, and we store the result in this tennis AUS element. And here it will contains all the data in this file. So let me go to R and show the result of this one. So we can say in this is the data frame, and it has 127 observations with 36 variables. We can see the data is shown at here. So this is how we extract the data, how we import the data files from website directly using R. However, most of data in the web pages are not organized into files. So in that case, we cannot directly import the data file into R. So we need other techniques that can help us. We need other techniques to deal with that kind of data. So before we capture this kind of data, we need to determine whether the data are static or dynamic based on the source code, because different data we have different kinds of methods to extract. So static data has its own method, and dynamic data has its own method. So we need to determine whether the data are static or dynamic based on the source code. So in this case, the static data is the data that can be seen in the source code, and the dynamic data is the data that cannot be seen in the source code. To determine this kind of data, the first thing we need to do is to know how to view the source code. To view the source code in the Chrome, so the thing we need to do is to go to View and go to Developer and choose the View Source Code. Choose the View Source in Chrome. So the other way is to right-click the website and choose the View Page Source. Okay, so I see someone asked me to mute the sounds for people coming. Sorry, let me try to mute the sound for. Let me see. It okay. Okay, so in this case, it should be no sound for people coming. Sorry for the interruption. Let us continue. So in this case, we need to know how to view the source code for each website. So in Chrome, we can do this by go to View, go to choosing Developer, and choosing View Source from here. So another way is to just when we have a website is to simply right-click the web page and choose View Page Source. So this kind of procedure is how to view the source code in Chrome. So if you use other kind of browser, you need to learn how to do that in different browser. So as I said, the static data is the data that can be seen in the source code, and the dynamic data is the data that cannot be seen in the source code. So after we knowing how to view the source code in the Chrome, let's say 2 examples. So we are going to determine the data in this following 2 websites are static or dynamic. So let's look at the first one, this one. So we can say there is a data table like this, and to determine the static whether this data are static or dynamic, we need to go to the source page. So we right-click and choose the View Page Source. And here we can see these are the source code for that page. So from here, we can say for each cells, for the data in each cells, there is a data. There has a corresponding data in the page source. So in this case, this website is a static. The data in this website is static. And then let's look at the second one. So this data, this website contains the basketball records for UConn. So let's look at the source code of this page. So View Page Source. So this is a very long source code, but if we want to find the elements, the data in each cells, actually we cannot find it from the source code. So in this case, the data in this website is dynamic. So the first one is static data, and the second one is dynamic data. So for different kinds of data, we need different kinds of web scraping techniques. And the first one, let's talk about how to use web scraping technique for the static data in R. So here I will discuss two ways of two kinds of web scraping techniques for static data in R. The first one is to use the Redlines function. So this function gives us the source code of all the source code of the HTML pages. And the second method is to use the rvest package. So this package is to capture the useful data by identifying the elements containing the data in the source code. So let's discuss these two kinds of methods one by one. So the first one, the Redlines function. So let's look at this example. So if we want to use Redlines function to extract the data in this web page, so in this web page, we use the Redlines function directly to the URL of this web page. And we use the head function to show the top 10 results. So from here, we can see the results. And we can also show the page source of this website. So compare with the page source and the results shown in here. So we can say actually that the Redlines, this function gives us all the source codes. And since it gives us all the source codes, we only and the only thing we need for this website is only the data. So in this case, we need a lot of data cleaning procedure and the data organization procedures. So the Redlines function is a little bit complicated when consider this data cleaning procedure and organization procedure. So next, we will talk about how to use web scraping technique, how to use RStudio to web scrape the static data in R. So the RStudio, this package, it helps us to extract data by locating the elements containing the data in the source code. So what does this mean? So it wants us to locate the HTML element first, and to locate the HTML elements which containing the data first, and then by locate this element, we can extract the data in that element. So the procedure is doing like this. First, we need to right-click the page and choose Inspect. And the second, we need to click this button. And then we can locate the HTML elements by finding the CS selector and the XPath code. So let me illustrate this by an example. For example, if we want to extract the data in this website, so we can see there is a data table here, and we want to extract all the data in this table. So the first step is to go to the Inspect here. And then we can see there is a button here. There is a button, the select an element in the page to inspect element. So we click this, and then we move the mouse. We can see for each cell, it gives us the location of that cell in the source code. So in this table, we can see this one is a table. So we can target this table in here. So we can see once we click this, the blue area is the table, which means this one gives we can use this one to target the table from the source code. So we can see here the ID is report table and the class is the table sorter. So we can use this ID and this class to identify the HTML table, and the ID and the cluster is used as the CSS selector. So let me approve this. So in such way, we can find the ID and the class for this HTML table, and by using this ID or this class, we can extract all the data in this table. So except the ID and the class, we could also use the XPath code to identify this HTML table by right-click and choosing the copy and choosing the copy XPath. Okay. So from here, we can say in this website, the table has a CS selector with ID, with report table, with class as table sorter. So this is how to identify the CSS selector. And then we can by this option, and we can see the XPath code is like this. So after identifying these HTML elements by the CSS selector and XPath, we can try to use REST to do the web scraping. The first step to use REST to do the web scraping is to install the REST package. So the REST package can be installed by these 2 lines of code. The first one is to install this package from the CRAN, and the second line is to load this package into R. And the next step is to do the web scraping using the CSS selector or the XPath code. So here is the link, is the URL of this website, and we use the read HTML for this link, and we store the information into the web page. And then after we have this web page, we can use the HTML nodes function to identify the HTML elements. So here I use the CSS selector class to identify the HTML elements, because we can see from the previous page, the class is the table sorter and the ID is report table. So we can first use the table sorter to identify the HTML elements. So here we are using the class to identify that elements, that table. And the HTML table function, this function is to extract the table from the element that we targeted in this step. Okay, so this is like how we use the class to extract the table information. And here, this part gives us how to use the CSS ID to extract the data from this website. So this is the same way. So the web page is just what we read from here, and the HTML nodes is to use gives us the CSS selector ID, to use CSS selector ID to identify the HTML elements, that table. And this function is also like extract the table from the elements. So we compare these 2 results, the 2 tables that we obtained by different selectors. One is by ID, one is by class, and we compare the results. So we can say actually these two results, they are identical. And next, I use the XPath code to extract that table. So the only difference is here. So in the HTML nodes, we use the XPath code to identify the element. And we also compare the result extracted by targeted by the XPath code, and the result by the CSS selector. We can say these two elements, they are the same thing. So here gives us the table that we extracted by those codes. So we can say the table shows here just exactly the same as the table shows here. Okay. So this is the step that how we use the RVest for the web scraping. And except the HTML nodes and HTML table that we talked in this example, there are many other frequently used functions in RVest. For example, the HTML nodes. So the difference between the HTML nodes and the HTML node and HTML nodes is that this one just like extract one element, and this one can extract several elements. So the HTML text is to extract the text from the targeted element, and the HTML attributes is to extract attributes from the targeted element, and the HTML form is to extract forms from the element. Okay, so here is just a brief introduction about the RVest. If you want to learn more about this, you can go to the RVest CRAN for more information. And except how we like determine the CSS selector and XPath by this way, by go to the inspect and use this button. We can also consider to use the selector guidage to identify the CSS selector. So this one is a very convenient tool. So it can give us the CSS selector and the XPath codes very quickly. So you can try it. So after talking about the web scraping for static data, I'm going to talk about the web scraping for dynamic data in R. So the dynamic data, what dynamic data displayed in the website can be changed in response to the user interaction. So that means if we click different things in that website, the data can be changed. So in that case, we need to automate the web browsing processing in R for the dynamic data, and to automate this web browsing process, we need help with this package, our Selenium package, and this package it provides the connection to this Selenium server, which is used to web scraping. Okay, to install this package, we can install it from the GitHub, and we need to load this package by the require function into R. So also, I will use an example to illustrate how to use R Selenium package to extract data. So for example, what happens? For example, we want to extract the data in this website. So for here, it's just as what we did for the static data. We need to identify the HTML elements containing the data first. So it's just the same thing as what we did for the static data. We go to the inspect, and we can select this button, and then we can select the elements here. So for example, I will use the class as stat box here to identify to identify these HTML elements, to identify the data in here. So for example, I will use this one. And after targeting the HTML elements, let's go to let me show how to use the R Selenium package. To use the R Selenium package, the first step is to connect to a Selenium server and open the browser. So to connect the Selenium server, we use this function, the RS driver function, and we select the port. And here I also choose the Chrome version. And then these two steps, these two lines of code, can help us to open the browser. And the next step to use the next step is to extract information and organize the data. So here is the URL of this website, and we use the navigate function to navigate the web browser to this URL, to this website. And after doing that, we use the find elements function to targeting the HTML elements by using the CSS selector. So here we use the CSS selector class, which is the stat table. So after doing this, we can use this step to get the element, to get all the text in that HTML element, and after organizing all these elements, we can see the result is showed here. So this is the top 6 element in the web element in this vector. And after doing this, after extracting the data that we need to close the browser by using the close function. Okay, so this is like the steps to do the web scraping for dynamic data in R, and I will also show the R code. I will do this in the R and show how it works. So first, we need to load this package to R, and here it gives us is to connect to the web browser. And this step here is to navigate the web browser to this URL, to the targeted website. And then we can find the elements. We can target the elements by the CSS selector. And then we can organize our element. And here, and the last step is to close the web browser. So it is gone. So this is the steps of how to use R Selenium to do the web scraping for dynamic data. So the frequently used function of the R Selenium includes the RS driver, which is to start a Selenium server, and navigate, which is to navigate the web pages, and the find elements, which is to find elements in the web page by using CSS selector or XPath. Get page sources, which is to get the current page source, and the click element. The click element is the function which can mimic the mouse action, which means it can help us to click different kinds of buttons in this website. Also, R Selenium have more details. So if you are interested in that package, you can go to that one to check more information. And next, I will show another example of this of the R Selenium of how to do the web scraping for dynamic data. So this we need to web scrap the data in this website. So this website gives us the basketball records for UConn. So it is the history record. So we want to extract the data in here, in this table. But the difficult thing in this website is that there is show more matches, which means which is like if we click here, we click show more matches. It continuously gives us more results, more records. So if we click it continuously gives us the records for different years. So we need to use our Selenium package. We need to use our code to mimic this option, to mimic this action, this click action, to obtain all the records, all the history records for UConn. So this is the difficult part. So to do this, I will directly show you my code. So to do this, the first step is to connect to the Selenium server. It's just what we have, what I have shown before. So connect it to the server and open the web browser. And then we can navigate to the web browser to this URL. We can see. And we want a function. We want to mimic the click mouse action. So to do this, I use a loop function in R to mimic that action. So we can see here it continuously gives us results by mimic the click action. So until it gives us the history records until 2008. Okay. So after doing that, we have the full table, and then we can web scrap. We can extract all the data in that table. So it takes a little bit time. So here I extract the data, the data for the time for these two schools, and I also record the data of the score and the result. Okay. So this is like how to do the web scraping in this example. And after doing this, we can see the basketball. We can see our organized data frame. Never mind. The organized data frame will look like this. So it gives us the time, the home, the away, and the score for the home, the score for the away, and the result. The last step is to close. After doing this, the last step is to close the remote drive. We can see it from here. It gives us the full list of that data table. And then we need to close the remote driver. This is how to do the web scraping for this website. Yeah, then I will give a brief summary. In this workshop, I mainly talk about three kinds of web scraping techniques for three kinds of web scraping techniques using R. The first one is if that we have the very well organized files from the web pages, we can directly import it by using read CSV functions like this, read CSV functions. And the second one, if we have static data, which is the data can be seen in the page source, we can extract that kind of data by using RVest package. And the last, for the dynamic data, we can use the R Selenium package to extract the dynamic data. Okay, and here is some useful resources that if you are interested, you can discover. And okay. Thanks for coming. I think my presentation will stop here. So if you have any questions, please talk to me. Please let me know. Is there any questions?
Yeah, Yaqiong, this is Lin.
Hi.
Can you explain like how do we set up port and Chrome error parameters in the RSlam package?
Okay. Okay, it's here. So for the port, there is a default port. So, but typically the default port it just be occupied by so it is occupied by other so in this case we just like we can change the port by assigning it to a number. So we can change any number here. So for example here I set the port at this one, so I can also set it to this, and it opens the port. And for the Chrome versions, I think for different computer, for different kinds of browser, you should have different things. So for here, it's just the Chrome version that I have. So if you run this line, it continuously gives you error, or you can like change. You can like try to change the Chrome version here. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, the Chrome version means the Chrome VER means the Chrome version. And on the port, you choose one that is not in use. Yes, you can randomly choose a port that is not in use. Any other questions? Okay, so okay. So if there is no questions, we can stop this workshop here.
I think there's a question in the chat group.
Okay, because there are too many messages. Why? Yes. Yes, the port and the Chrome version options can change. How can I take my port and the Chrome version? So the port, you can just choose the number that you want. The Chrome version, I think there is a function that to check the Chrome version, but I just forgot it. But what do you mean the headless? Okay. Just curious, what your specific motivation to focus on sports data? And have you gone? So I only have limited research experience on the sports data. So I'm taking this workshop because I have some experience with web scraping. But I think the sports data is very interesting. So I may consider to include that part into my research topic in some day. If you select the three dotted line at the top right of the, it will show you the version. Yes, thank you. So any other questions?
Yeah. When you're using the R Selenium package for the dynamic data, so like, will the function that you use to like try to replicate the user interaction, will that just vary then from website to website depending on like whatever, however it's set up?
Yes, you need to change it because different website has different kinds of setting. So you need change that with for different website.
Great. Thank you so much.
Is our Selenium equipped with functionality to automate the of logging into a site? Oh, that topic is interesting. I never tried this, but okay. Any other questions? Thank you. Thanks for coming, guys. Thank you. Yes, I think so. I have recorded this presentation and all the slides are available on GitHub. Thank you.